So this is a stihl ms200t crankcase here and the exhaust. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this piece of rubber to help with the blocking plate, which is the exhaust. Just a regular little paper punch. It's going to hold this piece of rubber here in place. So I've got the two exhaust bolts here with a piece of rubber, and that's going to do the sealing. You can do this on the saw as well, or rather while the saw is more together than this, but we're just demonstrating how to do a pressure test here. So you can watch this go down. Make sure the rubber doesn't bind and then bunch up, and then it won't seal. 1, 2 exhaust bolts. Now you should have the exhaust sealed. Now let's work on the intake. So the intake boot goes on like that. Then we have a plate here that actually seals the boot. That seals the boot. I just remembered I may not actually need to put the handle on. Probably nice to hold it, but may not actually need it. So I've got these plugs, which will plug the intake here reasonably well, so I don't need to put the carburetor on and use it as a backing, because that plug will be fine. But if you were going to use the carburetor as a backing, then what you want to do is you want to have a piece of rubber, just bicycle tube, punch a couple holes in it with a hole punch. Something that you'd use on a sheet of paper is fine. And then put the carburetor down over it, and that uses it. That creates a back similar to the exhaust. So now that that's there, what other holes do we need to plug? So on this motor, there's no decompression valve, so we don't need to worry about that, but there is a hole for a spark plug. So let's plug that. Now normally the impulse line connects underneath here to a nipple that's right here. But for purposes of this test, we don't need to connect it. We're just going to hook the mini vac right up to it. So remember I mentioned other places, other holes? Well, the oiler holes are here. 1, 2. Because those do go into the crankcase. So we hook the mini vac up to the impulse line. And sure enough, that is not sealing. Not at all. I need to figure out why. So part of the beauty of making videos is learning what you're doing wrong. And what I have wrong here is I have this seal in upside down. So, and this is exactly why we do pressure testing, because you can figure out that you've done something wrong. No wonder I can't generate pressure with the mini vac. That's got to be upside down. It's one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. I'm going to have to do a review on these seals later, but I'm glad I bought extra. So whenever you buy seals, you buy extra. So I'm going to change these out, and we're going to get the rest of the pressure testing video done so you can see what a proper result hopefully looks like. So I made a mistake. Please forgive me. I installed the seals upside down. So the seal should actually go in like this, not like that. This is bad. This is good. It's non-intuitive, but apparently this is the correct way. So let's see if this even fits over here. It certainly doesn't look like it's going to. A little bit of grease, a little bit of sealant. Bring the seal over. Gently bring it on down. Nice and easy, tap it on in. Now at this point, I definitely like that using the bolt to get it in, but I can't do that at this point without taking the whole thing back apart. And I cracked that one. Let's try again. So I'm having trouble tapping in this washer. I've already busted another one, so I'm about to throw in the towel here on these OEM seals. But let's see if I can use the crank to push it down. So let's use a washer. I think that's a 3/8 washer. Just a spacer that happens to be an air fitting. Another washer. And use the clutch to help push. I've got the piston stop in. So let's see if this more evenly pushes that seal in without cracking it. Just got to turn the clutch. Looks like it went in better. 13 millimeter. This comes back off. Pull this off. Let's see where this is at. I didn't crack it this time. So that's good. Can't get it down any further with this because this washer, I think, is bottoming out. Yep, but let's use our aftermarket seal here and see if this helps. Washer, spacer, clutch. Things are not lined up exactly. You're going to put forces on something you don't want to put forces on. So now we run into the piston stop, and this should just push that right down in there. Let's take this off, see how we did. Well, we're far better than we were before. Don't want to ruin these because those are my backup. But the seal sure looks like it's in better than it was. Maybe now I can tap it the rest of the way home. Don't know how much further it really needs to go. to use the biggest one possible because you want to be putting force on the outer edge, not the inner. And now we're home. Now the seal's finally in, and that's home. What a job that was. So far, I really don't like these OEM seals. Mastermind, you're right, these are a pain. In case somebody wants to see how I remove these, here's a tool that I made out of an old screwdriver. I hate to do this, but it's the only way I'm going to get it out without cracking the case. So just dig in here and start digging. And what you don't want to do is you don't want to mess up the magnesium case. The crank is strong, you can go against that. And eventually you'll start lifting up pieces. And it's just plastic, so it will crack. Eventually you'll have enough of a weak spot that the whole thing will just give away. Got the other one on the other side to just crack and break. At this point, this whole thing should just lift up and out. But it's going to come out in pieces. Old seal is out now. Just dig it out. New seal is going in. A little bit of sealant on the outside of the seal. So again, I've got a spacer. This happens to be a fairly large nut. I'm hoping this works. And I've got this nut here. And then I need my piston stop again. Center it. Looks like it's going. Take it off, see where we're at. Is it even? Is it not? Is it busted? Cracked. Okay, only get one more shot. Very simply, it seems like there's just not enough bevel on either of these things. Go back, maybe a broken seal can help here? I don't know. Slowly. slowly it's going in. It's got to be dead centered, otherwise it ain't happening, you know? Probably ran out of washer, so let's get another washer. Just gotta figure out what spacers work. It's all about the spacers being right. And lining it all up. So far so good. Almost home. Now she's fully seated. So drawing it in definitely helps. I really don't like the fact that these actually can crack. And now I don't have any more, so I'm going to have to use the aftermarket seals for the next build. Which I will post eventually. So I really don't like these seals. That's really cruddy. But let's see if they hold pressure. Let's put the spark plug back in. Then we'll see if the seals hold pressure. Never thought I could put a seal in upside down. So if we're doing pressure testing, about 7 pounds is what you want. Holding the intake. That looks pretty steady. A little bit of soapy water. I got bubbles right here. The base gasket's leaking. I go to the other side. But now I can take the soapy water to this as well. Looks like the seal's pretty good. So now we can set this to vacuum. You can leave this for 5 minutes or so and check it and come back. You lose half a inch of vacuum in 5 minutes. Not going to be a big deal. Still at 10 inches here. So it's holding good. So let's go back to pressure. So here's the pressure test again with me holding the intake closed. Soapy water on whatever thing you think might be leaking. And that base gasket's leaking like crazy. See there? This is why we do a pressure test. You want to check and make sure that that's not leaking like that. Now, that much of a leak, I ain't so sure it really makes a big bit of difference, but the sealant here hasn't had time to cure. So we're pressure testing before the sealant cures. So what I think I'll do, I think the seals are good. What I'll do is I will take the head off, reseal it, and leave it for 24 hours or so, and then we can retest. But that's essentially the objective of a pressure test. you want to know where your leaks are, if there are any. And certainly if you've got a saw with a messed up top end, you're going to be looking for issues, mainly crank seals that are leaking, or some other air leak somewhere else.